Good evening, everyone. Hi, welcome. My name is Marta. And today, I wanted to lead you through the path that we have to follow in order to pass all the tests that we have in English for the air traffic control examination. I know that this examination might not be known for lots of people, but it's becoming a real thing, especially, in the last couple of years. And lots of people are actually willing to become an air traffic controller in the past, I would say, year. Actually, to date, like this year, we had a record of people, wanting to be, and earn a spot in all this examination, which seems to be very complicated and very hard. But it's something that I think if you make, lots of effort and you really strive and you struggle a lot, this is a spot that you will earn with, with all glory. So welcome all. If you have any doubts or questions throughout the presentation, please let me know. I will be reading you live. This is a live presentation, so welcome. By the way, my name is Marta, in case you have, any questions. And today is April 7th, so we're gonna get started. I'm gonna be drawing, just a few things along the screen. Hopefully you can see it perfectly, but yeah, so we're gonna get started. And I'm going to walk you through the whole process and what does English play in all of this? Because, okay, it's an examination that it's done in Spain. We're Spanish people, so why is English so important in this examination? Why is English something that I have to pass in order to earn a spot in this examination? Well, this is basically because if you don't pass this test, you will not get a spot. We had 3 different phases, which I'm pretty sure that you guys, if you were interested in this examination firsthand, you know by hand, you know by heart. We have 3 different phases where basically we have the first one, the second, and the third. And you might be thinking, okay, maybe in the first one I have to just study lots of theory, I have to study lots of regulations and laws, related to aviation, but there's an English test. We have a grammar test when it comes to the first phase, and then we have a second one where we have to we have like a written test. We have to listen to an audio or maybe 4 audios. I'm going to go into that in a couple of minutes. And then also a reading test where we have lots of exercises and you have to fill in the blanks with different like grammar rules, prepositions, connectors. We're going to go into that in a couple of minutes. And then last but not least, we have the third phase, which it's probably the hardest one. I wouldn't say it's the hardest one, but I would say that, my students struggle the most with this one because it's the one where your oral skills are tested. And this is basically taken to, I wouldn't say to the limit, but this is something that we have to work on really, really hard, because otherwise we're not gonna pass this test. Unfortunately, the third phase and the following one, I would say is the most important one, because lots of students of mine, they have passed the first and the second perfectly without any problems at all. And then they have arrived to the third one, and unfortunately, because maybe they were nervous, maybe they didn't know how to express themselves, maybe they didn't know what, the correct word was to basically express themselves, and they didn't pass and they failed. And that's such a shame. I really don't want you to go through that. And basically, all these phases include an English part, which means basically that no English, no job position. And I know that this might seem a little bit frightening, maybe a little bit scary, but it's something that we have to take into consideration if we want to earn a spot as an air traffic controller. Of course, it goes without saying that we will be with you along the way. With every step of the way, we will help you, me as your English instructor, and you will have your coaches, and you will have someone that will guide you along the way. So you won't have to scared, or you won't have to panic, really. Right now, actually, I would like to go into detail, and I would like to dissect every single phase, and I would like to explain what each phase really consists of. I'm going to start with the first one, which is the grammar test. Okay, I'm going to basically say something about this. I'm going to have a comment on this, which is basically the grammar test. The grammar test is something that wasn't done for years, actually, but it was, it caught us by surprise when we were told last year around December that all students had a grammar test. It was something that hadn't been done in years, and now they had the part all over again. So all of my students were completely, they panicked. They didn't know what to do. A grammar test that we didn't study for, a grammar test that we didn't prepare for, and I was like, stay calm, don't worry about it. We're going to prepare, we're going to do lots of tests, but this is something that obviously caught us by surprise, especially this year. What the test was about was really a 20 multiple choice question test, okay? What I mean by multiple choice questions, basically, as a question, usually a grammar test, like a grammar sentence, and then you have to fill in the gaps with different options. You are given usually 4 different options, A, B, C, and D, and then you have to choose the most accurate option. And I really want to reinforce the word accurate, because this is something that not a lot of people know about this, which is the accurate option. Okay, so Marta, that means that basically I cannot really choose the most, like the correct one. Sometimes we do have 2 correct ones. When it comes to modal verbs, for example, we have, for example, the modal verb which, and then also we have the modal verb that basically implies that we're talking about a thing, we're talking about a situation. So sometimes NITES tests are a little bit tricky, and we are given 2 different options that are very ambiguous, and they give us lots of room for imagination. So basically, I always tell my students, you have to choose the most accurate one. And for that, basically, we need to learn all grammar rules and basically all grammar, norms that we must learn by heart in order to know which option would be the most accurate one. Okay, and then you might be wondering, how do we get prepared for all this, for this test? We have over 40 grammar tests in the platform with over 800 questions to practice in the platform. And this is something that, lots of my students were asking me back in December, like, Marta, how are we going to prepare for this test, which is in like 2 months' time? I also panicked a little bit. I didn't know what to do, but then I was like, don't worry, we have it all under control. We're gonna have I started doing grammar tests like non-stop, and basically we had daily classes. This is something that I would also like you to consider. We had daily classes correcting all tests leading to the exam. We had I remember I used to do that 2 or 3 corrections every single day, and with 40 grammar tests, you can imagine the number of classes that I had to do that month. It was actually quite stressful, but at the same time, I felt like I was helping lots of people get where they wanted to be. And thanks to that method that seemed to really work, we had over 150 students that passed that test, okay? Also, it's also very important, I almost forgot about the 10 mock exams that we had done lively. I think it was over January and also February. The first couple of weeks of February, they were the most stressful ones, because those were the weeks that were leading to the exam, and we had to do lots of mock exams. But other than that, we were basically getting prepared for something that we hadn't done in years. So, there was a reason to panic, really. But thanks to these methods, over 150 students passed this test. And I remember, the gratifying feeling of having all these students come to you after this test, thanking you, because the test was exactly how we prepared for this. And they were completely trained. They were perfectly trained for this test, which seemed to be very scary at first, but then they did it perfectly. And that's why, I can say that with, very proud, because, it worked really, really wonders. I think when it comes to teaching, as a teacher, I've been a teacher for many, many years, and I know my students' weaknesses. I know the parts or the areas where they struggle the most. And I think that it's very important to give those students tips that I would definitely give myself. I remember when I was a student, I would have loved someone to tell me, you should have done this way, or should have done that. It's very important to have someone that guides you along the way. So these are my tips when it comes to grammar tests, okay? In case we're doing a grammar test next year, for the next year announcement, but we have to be prepared no matter what, really. The first one is reading books. Okay, I don't know if you are a huge reader person, you're reading books every day, or it's something that you haven't done in years or months, or it's not really your thing, it's not really your cup of tea, but it's okay, because you can read any genre. I think that when I tell my students, you have to read lots of things. That way, you will make less mistakes, less grammar mistakes, because you will learn about how different words and how different tenses are written, and also the sense of and the context of that, sentence. Okay, but I struggle with this genre, or I struggle with literary, or I don't like fiction, I don't like fantasy. You have to find the genre that best suits your taste. And I think that there is a perfect book for everyone out there. I used to believe that reading was such a boring, lame hobby, but once you really find the books and the genre that you really enjoy, in English of course, you cannot really stop reading, and you cannot really put the book down. So I think it's all about finding the genre that you mostly enjoyed. And also, I think this one goes without saying. Lots of people, have told us along the way that in order to learn a new language, we have to watch lots of movies and lots of series and TV shows. And actually, we're going to do a method which is called shadowing. I will explain that method in a minute, towards the end of the presentation. But this is something that I have done I remember when I used to study English back in the day, like almost 10 years ago, and I remember that shadowing was a method that got me where I am. So I'm going to explain to you what it means, so that obviously that helped you too. And then of course, I mean, this one is a little bit ambiguous. I don't want you to believe that, you know, social media or TikTok or any form of social media is really bad for you to learn English. I'm not saying that. I'm just basically saying that I've seen lots of videos on social media. I've seen lots of videos on TikTok, on Twitter, on Instagram, and lots of them have got grammar mistakes. This is something that, you know, it used to be, you know, very funny when I used to tell my students, I spend hours scrolling on TikTok, watching lots of videos in English, and I get to learn a lot of English, but at the same time, I've seen lots of grammar mistakes. Because just as, you know, us as Spanish people, we tend to make lots of grammar mistakes when we don't know how a certain word is written. Native speakers, like English ones, they also do the same. So it's very important to pay very crucial attention to all the videos that we see online, because they might not have the right sentence, or they probably didn't write it the right way. Okay, so when it comes to grammar tests and we want to pass this test, please try to stay away from those videos as much as possible. I'm not saying that all videos are incorrect, but most of them are. So we have to be very careful, okay? When it comes to the second phase, this is probably, I want to say the most boring one. I wouldn't say it's lame, but it's probably the one that lasts the least period of time. I think it's like 35 minutes, 45 minutes. Last year, I remember, you know, my students used to tell me that it wasn't that hard. I mean, the level was like a B2 intermediate level, not even advanced level. So we don't have to panic about this part. But there is some news about this year's exam, which they didn't have this part. I mean, NIDA is very unpredictable. You never really know what's up their sleeve. So, but either way, nevertheless, we have to prepare for this exam no matter what. And we had done lots of theory classes where we had to reinforce lots of listening skills and reading tests, lots of homework. We're going to talk about that. Listening part. Usually it's played once. Okay, this is the second phase. We have passed the first one. We have done the grammar test. We did it perfectly. But now we are on to the second one. Okay, listening part usually is played once. This might be a little bit tricky for some of you, like, you know, listening skill is not really my forte. It's one of my weaknesses. I'm not really good at, you know, catching what the other person is saying. I think when it comes to, you know, listenings, one of the weaknesses that we can struggle with is accents. Like, lots of people have lots of accents. And when, you know, examiners, they play at certain listening, they love playing a British person or American person or whatever. So we have to prepare for any type of accent. So it's played once. And why, you might wonder? It's usually played once because the clock is ticking and time is basically running out. So we have to prepare to do it, I mean, with time, but also at the same time, we cannot really waste time reading things more than once, or, you know, basically the clock is ticking against us. So we're gonna do anything about that. We have written comprehension questions. Like, once we have listened to that once, listening, whatever it is, usually like a dialogue. A dialogue between a teacher and a student, or it can either be among peers, or maybe they're talking about something that they did during the weekend or something they did over summer. You're gonna have written comprehension questions. I believe this is a little bit easier since we get to read the questions and we get to know what is asking us about the lesson. I think it's much easier to see what we have to listen to. And we have to be careful because they're going to ask me about this specific date, they're going to ask me about this specific character, or what this character does for a living. So we have to be very careful about what we are listening to once we have written the questions. Sometimes we are given time to read the questions first, and sometimes we are not. And then, once we are done with the listening part, we're gonna do a reading test, okay? The reading test is usually like also 4 different tests. I think I'm gonna explain that in a minute. And we have like a reading test where we have to match paragraphs. For example, I don't know if you have done this exercise. You probably have, like, I don't know, during high school or something like that. If the person is not from Glasgow, that's true. That's for sure. I mean, sometimes you have to struggle with lots of different accents, and that's probably the worst. That's probably the worst, and I totally get it. My students, that's the thing that they most panic about. Matching paragraphs. I'm pretty sure that you have done this in the past. And I remember when I was in high school, I used to do these exercises in the workbook. We have to fill in the gaps, or maybe there was a specific paragraph and you have to match it with the person that said that specific paragraph, or what the specific paragraph was about. So we have to be careful with that. Usually the reading part is not that long, okay? This is why I told you that usually it lasts 35 minutes, 45 minutes tops. It's not even an hour long. This is why they have to do it, I mean, without wasting time. Also fill in the gaps. And this is usually the Cambridge style. My students, I've been told that it's usually a Cambridge type of, you know, test where you have to basically fill in the gaps with different connectors, or maybe you have to fill in the gaps with different prepositions, or maybe words that make sense, that specific word makes sense in that specific gap because that one basically builds a bridge between that sentence and the other. You have to gap the bridges, okay? It's very important. This is something that I always tell my students to do. Guys, pay attention to this because this is very important. You have to read, if this is a sentence, okay, whatever, and then you have this gap, and then the sentence continues, and there's a period point there, okay? Okay, so we do have the sentence, and then we have the gap, and then lots of people, anxious people usually, they have anxiety over this test, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna read this. I know by heart, I know what it comes first. I know that comes next. I know which specific word, which specific phrase comes next, because I just know. Be careful with that, because usually the sentence that goes after, it's not the one that makes sense with the gap, basically, that you had before. So lots of anxious students, they get to choose first. Before, I always tell them, guys, you have to read the sentence first until you have like period in there and you know that the sentence is there, like that's where it ends. You have to read till the end because that will give you a lot of context. That will give you what the story is about. If you know what the story is about, maybe this next sentence that comes after the gap is something that is telling you completely like quite the opposite. Like it's a contradiction to the gap, or it's a contradiction to this sentence before. So therefore, the gap that you choose, basically the option that you choose, is not correct. So try to read until the end of the sentence so you know which one is the most accurate one. Remember that we are looking for the accurate answers, not the correct ones. The most accurate, exact, precise words, okay? And then, of course, how do we reinforce all of these different skills? We have weekly theory classes where both reading and listening skills are reinforced. I think it's important to consider that this is something that has to be practiced every single day. Unfortunately, we cannot really do theory class every single day, like 24/7, because that would be impossible for all of us, but we can definitely reinforce these skills every day. Hello, Gloria, welcome. But this is something that I always tell my students, this is like a daily job. Like English, it's a very, I would say, disgraceful language, because even though it's beautiful and it's one of my passions, I really love English and I love teaching English, but at the same time I know that it gets rusty super quickly, and it's something that we have to practice every single day. Reading, listening, and I'm going to tell you a couple of tips about reading that you might be interested in. Homework. I know no one likes homework. We're not kids anymore. We're not school. We are just basically examining ourselves for a very important job position, which is an air traffic controller. I know that we don't like homework, but the only way that we know, and the only way that I know you guys are working on these skills during the weekend, where I cannot really know what you're doing, is through homework. And usually homework, it's something like, I don't know, like a reading or a text, or I want you to match paragraphs, or I want you to tell me the gaps, or basically I want you to rephrase a sentence, or I want you to tell me which connectors would fit best for these gaps. Usually that's the homework that we'll correct, you know, in the next class that we have on Monday, Thursday, whatever, whichever day of the week that it falls on. But usually this is homework that it's corrected the day of the class, okay? Whichever class, I mean, that we have, but definitely it's not something that I forget about, of course. I don't really send homework, I don't assign any homework or essays every single week, but it's something that I have to consider if I want you to work through the weekend, or I really want to make sure that you guys don't really, you know, set it aside and forget about English for the weekend, because that would be, you know, that would be unfortunate. When it comes to the tips that I would like to give you as a teacher, again, this is from my experience. This is from my point of view. I've been teaching a lot of years, and I've been teaching lots of different people and different profiles of people and different characters. And I think this is what fits best. And this is also something that worked for me. I'm Spanish. I will ask you in Spanish later if you have any questions, but some people ask me, like, it's really hard to believe that you're Spanish because you speak English perfectly. Well, this is what got me here. So since I assume that you want to, you know, get where I am, I really want you to take the steps to write them down and to really, you know, reinforce those skills that you feel like you are, you know, a little bit struggling with. When it comes to listening and reading, this is something that, you know, actually quite interesting and quite funny, because podcasts, they weren't a thing. I believe that, I don't know, like I was gonna say 5 years ago, but maybe like 10 years ago, podcasts, I don't know if you guys remember, they weren't a thing really. Podcast is something that it's quite recent. Podcast is something that, I don't know, you can ask your parents, you can ask your grandparents, or like, you know, older generations what a podcast is, and they might be looking at you like, what are you talking about? What are you saying? What is a podcast? Okay, this is something quite recent. And well, I think that there are lots of like different platforms where you can just listen to podcasts, but the most famous one is Spotify. And I really love listening to different podcasts. Again, this basically is the same thing as a book. Like, Marta, I cannot really find any book that I like or that I enjoy reading in English. We need to find out what's the best genre that fits you, like fits your taste. Maybe I love listening to crime stories, or maybe I love listening to romance, or maybe I love listening to psychology, to tips or hacks or whatever. Me personally, I love listening to advice sessions. Like maybe they come from psychologists, or maybe they come from someone I love, or I don't know, someone interesting, of course in English. Also, not only it's going to reinforce the way you understand that person talking, but also it's going to reinforce the different accents that people have for whatever reason. Maybe they're from Glasgow, or maybe they're from London, or maybe they're from America. I really love like pretty much everything I listen to these days. It's, you know, American people, so this is why I got this accent. But you can really listen to any podcast, really. And I'm pretty sure that same thing happens with books. You will find the perfect podcast for you out there. I'm pretty sure that there's someone that you will love. When it comes to reading, again, we're going to read the books that we love, whether it's fiction, whether it's fantasy, whether it's romance, whether it's history, whatever it is, but basically out loud. I really want you to read out loud because we're basically preparing ourselves for the third phase, which is oral skills. And we have to get really, really good at speaking and expressing our thoughts and really expressing ourselves with the best words possible. And I think when it comes to reading books, the best way to do it is by reading out loud. So we get to listen to ourselves and we get to listen to what type of accent we do have, or maybe, I don't know, the way that we said this specific word. I don't know what this word means, so I'm just gonna look it up later, or maybe I will have to underline that word so I know that I have to look up for that word later. I really don't want you to dwell on words that we don't know. That's just something that I also want you to consider, because sometimes my students tell me, okay, Jo, I've been reading an article, or I've been reading, I don't know, whatever book, but it took me years to finish the entire book, because every time that I stumble upon a word that I didn't know, I had to finish the whole thing, and I had to like stop the whole thing of reading, and I had to go fetch the dictionary and look up the word. Don't do that. Don't do that, please, unless it's something that it's quite specific and that will tell you the whole clue about what the scene is about. The context will tell you what this page is about, what the story is about. So we cannot really waste time on words that we don't understand, okay? When you read something out loud, you will listen to yourself. You might cringe, you might not like the voice that comes out of it, you might not like the way you sound, but it's perfectly fine. It's just a matter of practice, okay? And when it comes to singing the lyrics of the songs that we love, this is something that I've done my entire life. I love music. I'm a huge, I mean, without music, I don't think I'd be here, really. Spotify also, I'm talking about Spotify. This is not a sponsor or anything, I wish it was, but it's not. Spotify has got this option where if you listen to a specific song, you have the lyrics. If you like scroll down and like down below, you have the lyrics available for you. So you can just sing along at the same time as a singer. I believe this is a really, really good way to not only sing and have a really good time, but also to understand what the song is about, to really understand what the singer is trying to, the message is trying to convey. And also, this is also the shadowing method. When you listen to a song and you see, okay, Last Christmas I Gave You My Heart, which is a very famous song, by the way, I'm pretty sure that you guys know about this song, you know how this word is pronounced, okay? Maybe I didn't know how this word was pronounced, but once I listen to the song, which is a very fun way, I know that this is pronounced Christmas. But the very next day you gave it away. Pretty famous. I love that song, by the way. I love that song. So basically, we have to listen to songs and sing out loud and try to find the lyrics. You can also do this on YouTube or any platform where you can watch videos and sing along. When you sing along, you say the same exact words as the singer. You try to pronounce the same way, with the same rhythm, with the same intonation. And I will tell you that you will improve in no time, because this is basically what worked for me. And the last one, it's news and levels. Okay, so in here, basically, I wanted to pause and I wanted to tell you about this website, which I recently discovered about this website. It's not really long since I really discovered about this one. This is a website where you can see news. You can read articles that are not too long, like it will take you literally 5 minutes to read the entire article, but you can read that news in different levels. Whether you have it like preliminary, then you have like pre-intermediate, then you have intermediate, then you have advanced level. So you can read any news article with different levels. If you actually switch from one level to another, you will see that words change, of course, based on the level that you chose before. But I think that is such a great way, not only to read something, but also to listen, because you have a listening down below, which is great. to speak with Google Speaking Practice. It's an aid tool. Yes, David, of course. Yeah, of course. Sometimes, David, the thing that we struggle the most with is probably we don't have someone to practice English with. I don't have friends, I don't have family members that speak English, so I don't have anyone to really practice. So I haven't really tried that tool yet. Like, it's an artificial intelligence tool. I didn't know about that one. Maybe it works, maybe. But of course, I mean, I don't know what to say. I haven't really tried that tool myself, but I'm pretty sure it's a really good one, David. So please, if you, I mean, since it's AI, it might have mistakes in there, so I don't fully trust those tools. I always trust, of course, human beings. So try to be careful with that. Try to be careful. Although it might be a really good thing to practice English. Yeah, for sure. Definitely. That's the point, yeah. Same thing happens with like all artificial intelligence tools. They all are perfect. I mean, they might be a really good tool and they might help us make our entire job easier and better, but also they might make lots of mistakes. So we have to be careful with that, okay, David? So careful with that. News and levels, something to read, something to listen to, and also something that where you can learn lots of vocabulary, because once you are reading through the article, you will find lots of words that you didn't know before, maybe something that, you know, it's, you know, a synonym to a word that you knew. So I think it's great to really learn about, you know, different words and things like that. So newsandlevels.com, I believe. I don't know if it's like .com or .s, but yeah, I think it's such a great tool. The third one, my favorite one. The oral test is basically when you have passed the first phase, you have passed the second one, and then now we are on to the third one, which is my favorite one, by the way. Personally, this is the one where, you know, people seem to panic the most and people seem to struggle the most, because it's like, okay, Marta, I know how to do a grammar test. I know how to do a reading test. I know how to do a listening one because I am reading the questions. But the real problem happens when you have to talk, when you have to speak the language. And I think that this happens with every language, really. French, German, Chinese, any language that you're learning right now, this is something that we struggle with the most. I think that the speaking part, it's not as easy. I do have a couple of, like, one meme that really, you know, represents 100% what I'm talking about. But obviously it's the hardest part because we might not be able to express ourselves, you know, as best as we could or as best as we, you know, would want to. So basically, again, we're gonna have an oral listening. Again, I'm gonna tell you, these are the tests that, you know, based on the students that did it in the previous year. So maybe they changed the whole thing. Maybe they changed the whole process in the next few years. You never know what NIDA has up their sleeve. You never know with NIDA. Maybe they are super unpredictable and they don't have a listening part this time. We have to prepare it anyways, okay? So there's a listening part, but this time they're going to play it twice, okay? Or once. I mean, I was told that it was played twice because it's only listening to it. You don't get to see the questions written. They will ask you about it, but orally, and you have to answer the questions orally. So it might be a little bit tricky. It might be easier because that way you don't have options and you know that the option that it's in your head is the right one, is the correct one. So, I mean, some people might love this one better than the other one. Some people might not. I don't know. That's basically up to you. And then we have another written test, but this one is also oral. They will make you read something in English. They will make you read out loud. This is why I told you that it's very important to practice reading out loud as much as possible. I'm not telling you to read 3 hours a day, but I'm telling you to read as much as possible, okay? Because this time in this test, you will have to read out loud, and they will assess your accent, they will assess your rhythm, they will assess basically your fluency when it comes to reading in another language, especially English, of course. And then they will ask you questions about that reading, also orally. So maybe they will ask you about what a specific character did the other day, whatever that is. But you will have to answer orally, which might be tricky, but for some people, it might be the best. I mean, when it comes to me, I remember that I used to hate having like all different options laid out on the paper. I would much rather like express myself orally than having to read something and then maybe not really understand what the message is about. I would much rather just speak myself and express myself better because, I mean, I was good at that, so maybe this is on me, I don't know. And then, last but not least, we have the speaking test skills. They will assess every skill that you have when it comes to any topic at all. And this is quite interesting. When I was told about this part, I was like, what type of topic they will be asked the day of the exam? What type of topic? Like, is it about politics? Is it about economy? Is it about, I don't know, social media, Donald Trump? I don't know. And I was told that it's about anything really. It's a very random topic. It's something that you don't expect at all. And this is why with my students right now, actually these days, we are practicing lots of different topics. So today, for example, we talked about taxes, like payroll taxes. The other day we talked about, I don't know, organ donation. The other day, we talk about anything really. So you have to prepare, and also it's important to be updated on what is going on in the world. We might not know what's going on, I don't know, in China, we might not know what's going on in Australia, but we must be updated on what's going on, because it is a scary part, I know. It is random, but I'm gonna tell you something about this. When it comes to a topic that you know nothing about, I'm telling you, no clue about, I know. I remember that a couple of years ago, people were asked about the education system in Finland. The education system in Finland, and lots of students were like completely open-mouthed, and they were like completely expressionless. They had no expression in their faces. They were completely blanked and pale. They didn't know what to say. And I was like, you can never do that. You can never be like quiet. You can never be completely quiet and be like, I know nothing about this, because that way you will fail 100%. You have to speak about anything. Okay, I don't know about the education system they have in Finland, but I will tell you about the one that we have in Spain. You pass the exam. You pass it. You pass it with flying colors. I will tell you that's the way it works. That's what they want. They want you to speak. They want to basically listen to your fluency. They want you to express yourself with the right words. They don't care how little you know about that topic. They want you to speak, and that's it. And that's what I practice with my students every single day, every single week. Guys, you might not know nothing about this, economy, taxes, whatever. I'm really bad at numbers. I really did nothing about taxes. But we can talk about the taxes that we have in Spain. We know that every single month there's a deduction from our payroll, and it's supposed to be for like public services, basically. It's basically for public services. So we have to pay for those things. And we might not know anything about, I don't know, the taxes that they pay in China, but we know the ones that we pay in Spain. So, we can do anything really, but stay quiet. That way you will not pass exams. So we have to speak about anything really. How do we reinforce these skills? Basically, we have daily speaking classes every single day. Right now, we are getting ready for the third phase for all the students that pass the first and the second one, where speaking and pronunciation skills are reinforced and practiced every single day. I will give you your time. You guys can take your sweet time trying to put in order your thoughts and the words that you're about to say. Some people are really nervous about this part. Like, they don't really want to talk in public. They don't really want to speak in front of like their classmates or me, and it's like, it's okay, don't panic. Like, I won't judge you. It's all about not judging your students. I think that the best teacher is the one that doesn't judge. I have lots of patience, and I will try to teach you how to pronounce this word, or maybe you've been repeating this word a lot lately, so I'm going to tell you a synonym. I will tell you something that it's got the same meaning, but it's a completely different word. We have to avoid repetition no matter what. That way, we will earn a spot within this field, okay? And also, we have weekly theory classes where oral listening comprehension is tested. This is something that we've been practicing a lot lately also. Like, instead of basically laying out all the different questions about the listening that we've practiced during the class, I will ask them the questions out loud. I will ask them, okay, so regarding this question, and you were listening to this part, okay, so tell me now, orally, not orally, they have to text me, like you have to send a message in the chat, but they have to answer orally, as if this was an oral test, okay? So this is basically something that we also practice during theory classes. But even though you must be, it's not that you must be scared. You don't have to be scared. I think that when it comes to speaking another language, our first instinct is to be scared, to not really say the right thing, or maybe to come across as someone that it's a little bit insecure and self-conscious. But I think that you have to be confident. Confidence is everything. I always tell my students the same thing. Confidence, just fake it till you make it. Confidence is something that nobody knows if it's real or not. And you have to be confident. Like, I don't know about this education that they have in Finland, but I'm going to tell you the one that we have in Spain. The one that we have in Spain is public, whatever, blah, and whatever. And then you go on, and that's it. And that's what they want. That's exactly what they want. Okay, when it comes to tips, since I said before this is my favorite part, so they want to test your reaction more than the topic itself, right? Yeah. They don't want to test your reaction. That's not really what's about, but they want to, okay, so here's the thing. If you react dramatically to the topic, it might come up a little bit, self-conscious. So try to stay calm, try to stay like, very natural about this. It's not, even though inside of you something is dying, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe this is being asked to me. Like, I know nothing about this, but try to be as natural as possible, okay? Just like poker face. We have to remain with a poker face throughout the exam. Teacher tips, when it comes to this part, favorite part, by the way, because I love speaking. I don't know if you have noticed, but I can never shut up. Reading out loud, but this time we're going to be self-critical, okay? We want to be self-critical, and we really want to know what we did wrong during our speech, during our intervention. I have never really come across someone that it was like arrogant, like, oh, I did everything perfectly, so you don't have to correct me. No, of course not. And thank God that I didn't, because all my students are wonderful. But you have to be self-critical about the things that you did wrong. That way, we will improve. That way, we will make progress. If not, there's no way that we can make progress. So we have to be self-critical about the thing that we read. Okay, so I'm reading this article out loud. Come on, I read this word the worst possible way, so I have to repeat it again. I have to go back and check how this word is pronounced, okay? So we have to be self-critical. This is the only way that we can just go upwards and that we can make really, really lots of progress. Okay, this is what I want you to do, just make progress, okay? And even though it's very little progress, oh, I didn't really improve this week. Come on, it's a progress that you don't get to notice every day, but you will notice in a month time, okay? Watch movies and TV shows with subtitles, of course. I forgot to basically put the subtitles in here, but it goes without saying that we cannot watch something and then the Spanish subtitles right below, right? That doesn't make sense, of course. That way we won't learn anything. So we have to watch everything with subtitles in English. So that way we know how the person is pronouncing this different word. Maybe they are having a heated argument, or maybe they're having a discussion, or maybe they are defending themselves, they're giving reasons why, or whatever it is. But I think it's great to basically do, again, the shadowing method. I will explain about that method in a minute, but trust me when I tell you, it's one of the best things that I've ever done in my entire life as a teacher and as, a language learner. Singing along, this is basically what I said before, but when you're listening to music, I'm pretty sure that everyone out there is a huge fan of music. Of course, who isn't, right? So singing along the lyrics and basically, getting to memorize the words. When it comes to my favorite songs, I don't know about you, but I know the words by heart. Like, I can definitely sing the song from beginning to end with every single word, and I won't miss one, not even one, because I love that song. It's just something that I got to memorize because I listened to it over and over again. When it comes to English, it's all about repeating it, like repeating the whole process, repeating the song. It's about repetition. So once we have listened to that specific part or that specific song 10 times, I'm pretty sure that by the 11th time, you will know exactly how it ends and you will know exactly how it starts, okay? So it's all about repeating it. And then interview yourself. David, you told me that there was a tool, artificial tool like on Google, that basically you can speak to them, or maybe you can speak to, like, I don't know, robots out there, and they will answer in English, or you can ask questions. You can get asked questions. Be careful with this though, because they might make mistakes, but also you can interview yourself. And this is something that it might sound a little bit like a freak. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to interview myself. I remember when I used to learn English, I used to be a student just like you guys, and I used to be pretty bad at this really. But I had no one to really practice the language with, so I had to interview myself. I had to look in the mirror and be like, what do you do today? So today I went to school. I put these pants and these shoes and these trousers on, and because it was cold outside, I met with my friends and I ate this. Oh, and today I had a very good conversation with the teacher, because whatever. You can just make the entire conversation in your mind. I'm pretty sure that you guys today, but you have to try it. You have to try it and you have to tell us. You have to tell me some feedback about it if you like that tool. And I'm pretty sure that you guys get to think in English, in Spanish a lot. You guys are Spanish, so okay, so today I did this, or I just had a very heated argument with my boss and I didn't know what to say at that minute, or with my mother or my sister. I didn't know what to say, and then all the greatest answers come right after, like 30 minutes later. Like, it's like, come on, you're showering and then you come up with the greatest answers. That happens in English too. So it's about thinking in Spanish. Try to switch the language in your brain. It's just a matter of a click. I always imagine this as a button in my brain. Like, okay, so now I'm thinking, I'm just talking, I'm speaking to these people in Spanish, but if I want to, I can just click, I can switch, and I can just switch languages very easily. This is something that takes practice, of course, takes lots of years, but I love doing that because I believe it's one of the greatest challenges that your brain can overcome, to basically switch from one language to another in a matter of seconds. I think it's great. And also, I mean, Who doesn't love this meme? My English in my head seems to be perfect. I get to read every single question perfectly. I don't have to worry about anything because I'm reading every single word. I understand everything. Then, when I get to write it, okay, so the English teacher told me to write what I did during the summer, or maybe what I did this weekend, whatever, just like a simple essay that, you know, we have to do, all of us, when we were kids. But then when it comes to speaking, the story changes a lot. The story, it's a lot worse, I would say. This is why most of my students are like, come on, I am super good at writing, I'm super good at reading. English in my head is just perfect. I don't know what happens when it comes to speaking it. I mean, I just stumble upon my words. I don't know what the right words to say. Like, no words seem to come to my mind. Or maybe they don't come as naturally as I would like them to. This is a matter of practice, okay? Really. So, I didn't switch from Spanish to English overnight. This is something that took me years. But it's all about practice every single day. And also, I mean, nowadays we have lots of different tools that can help us, you know, learn different languages. We have Duolingo too, which is a great app, by the way. But also you have to be careful because it's not going to give you the exact, you know, level that you want in order to pass this test. Okay, so you have to be careful. Now we are onto something that I would like to explain before I go, which is the shadowing method, and also another hack that we have with a pencil between our teeth. Okay, what is the shadowing method? I'm pretty sure that you can see this, you know, this little mimicking person doing like different things, like just the famous one. The shadowing method, it's something that I got to learn a few years ago, but basically it's about learners, you and I, listening, basically learners listening to native speakers, whether it's a recording, whether it's a video, whether it's a movie, whether it's a song, and basically we have to simultaneously repeat what they say in real time. And this is all very important. I would like to pay attention to that and take into consideration that it's something that has to be done at the same time simultaneously. I cannot really wait like 3 hours or 3 minutes after the person said that, because I'm going to forget the way they said it. I'm going to forget the pronunciation. I'm going to forget the intonation. So I need to do it simultaneously, okay? Just basically as soon as possible. The goal of this entire shadowing thing is basically to mimic the speaker's pronunciation, the intonation, and the rhythm as close as possible. So if I'm listening to this specific song about this specific singer that I love, is one of my favorite singers, and I'm basically repeating this, like the same word with the same intonation and the same pronunciation that he or she said it, that is called shadowing. Or maybe there is this great, I don't know, quotes out there, or maybe this like, you know, classic, movie quotes that they say, for example, Star Wars, "May the force be with you." That's one of the classic, movie quotes that everybody knows by heart. So probably I didn't know how that was pronounced before I watched that movie. So basically, by watching things in English with the subtitles, and you get to shadow and you get to say it out loud, you will basically mimic every single accent, every single word, the pronunciation. And trust me when I tell you that this by far has been the most effective way that I got to learn English, by shadowing. I know that it sounds like a little bit tiring, like, oh my God, I'm tired of shadowing the same person. I'm tired of repeating what this person is saying, but trust me that you do it without really noticing. You do it completely, without thinking about it. And I think this is the best way to do things, right? Without noticing that you have been making an effort to pronounce the same way. Podcasts, TV, movies, music, interviews also. I'm pretty sure that you have, your favorite actor out there, your favorite singer, or maybe a politician that you love speaking, like whatever. Try to watch as many interviews as possible. Try to watch as many podcasts of that person as possible, because you get to shadow, you get to mimic the same words that that person said. And trust me when I tell you that this is super, super effective. You guys have to do it every day. Like, this is not something that's going to work with only 2 days of practice. This is something that has to be practiced every day. So please, guys, when I tell you that it gets rusty in no time, I'm not lying to you, because I've seen it like that for years maybe. And there's a hack. A hack is basically a tip, a piece of advice that I want to tell you, because, during the, recent, I would say like 4 weeks, since I've been preparing all my students for the third phase, the speaking part, I've been noticing lots of people struggle with certain words. Like, they don't know how to pronounce this specific word. They struggle to say the word available, or struggle, or maybe the word brilliant. I don't know, just certain words that, of course, they might not be as easy as they sound, or as they seem to be. So we struggle with pronunciation. Like, I'm really good at writing, I'm really good at reading, but when it comes to pronouncing words, that's something that is one of my weaknesses. So what is this hack about? I don't know if you can see this picture right here, like this little girl or this woman, whatever, that is basically placing a pencil between their teeth. I'm not going to do this because it's quite dirty, so I'm not going to do it myself. It's not hygienic, but you can basically do it at home right now with something that is clean, that you know it's not going to put dirt in your mouth. But if you put the pencil right there, okay, just between your teeth, and you start reading something out loud, okay, of course, you cannot really be understood. No one is going to understand what you say, like, because you have a literal pencil in your mouth, and this is an obstacle, okay? I want you to know that this is an obstacle, okay? This is a barrier, I would like to put. This is something that is going to keep me from pronouncing something right. But that's the whole point of this hack. That is going to keep me from pronouncing something right. By the time I remove the pencil, I will get to pronounce the word perfectly. Trust me on this. I didn't do it with a pencil myself, but I've had braces like in my mouth for almost like nearly, I don't know, 7 years, 8 years. My entire childhood I had braces on. And I remember that I used to struggle with like obstacles and barriers that I had in my mouth because I couldn't really pronounce correctly, especially when I was reading English. And I remember in school, I will never forget about this. One teacher told me once that you get to pronounce English this good and this perfect because you have braces, because you have something in your mouth that it's going to make you make an extra effort to pronounce something better. By the time all the braces were removed from my mouth, the way that I pronounce words in English was outstanding. And it was basically nothing compared to the way that my peers used to pronounce things in English. So this is a hack that you can practice at home. I don't want you to do it every day, but try to do it every once in a while if pronunciation is basically what you struggle with the most, okay? Basically, in other words, like more technical words, it's going to help you articulate exercises and it's going to help your mouth basically by positioning and pronunciation with certain consonants. For example, the word think or I want you to talk about this or think and this, apparently it's the same, right? TH, I mean, the sound seems to be the same, but I'm saying the word think and I'm saying the word this. So I don't know if you have noticed that the way that I pronounce those two words is completely different. Even though it's the same sound, apparently, it's pronounced completely different. So we have to pay attention to that, okay? The other day I read another meme. I don't know if you have time for that, but for example, the word Pacific Ocean. Pacific Ocean. I don't know if you have noticed that the letter C, the consonant C in those two words is pronounced differently. In every single time, like every single syllable is pronounced differently. We say Pacific Ocean. So it seems to be the same. Like in Spanish, it's the same consonant, so I'm going to pronounce it the same. There's no problem in there. But when it comes to English, I think this is where our minds explode. When we are kids and we are learning about this language, it's a huge discovery to see that this language is not read the same way that it's written. And this is probably when all of our minds, when we were kids, used to explode, right? Also, it's going to strengthen our mouths, like it's going to strengthen our tongues, basically. Our mouth muscles, I don't know if you knew about this, but we have lots of muscles around our mouth and we have lots of muscles all over our faces. So it's going to strengthen the mouth muscles. By the time we pronounce something in English, by the time we speak something, we're going to do it better. So try to do this at home. Try to give me some feedback. I've been telling my students lots of this. Like this hack is a little bit funny, not gonna lie to you, but trust me when I tell you that it's actually quite effective because it worked for me. I didn't have a pencil myself. I had braces, and probably you guys have braces right now. And that would be great. If you want to pronounce better, that would be great, by the way. And that's it. If you have any questions during the process, if you have any questions about hacks or maybe one way to improve this specific area in English, now is the time to ask me those questions, please. Puedo también responder en español, obviamente, pero nada, decirme si tenéis algún comentario, alguna pregunta sobre el proceso, sobre todo también, pues cómo poder practicar o cómo poder reforzar esas áreas de español de inglés, que igual pues tenemos un poquito más de complejidad a la hora de pronunciar, por ejemplo, una palabra, a la hora de saber qué tenemos que poner en ese espacio, ¿vale? Si tenéis alguna pregunta me decís. If you have any questions, please let me know. And as you can see, it's pretty easy for me to switch, right? Languages from one way to another. But trust me that it takes practice, it takes lots of years, and it's something that I love. Of course, it's something that you need to love in order to be really good at something. I think that you would not be good at something if you don't love it yourself with it's a passion of yours. It's like something that you love with all your heart. It's really not impossible, but it's really hard. It's harder, of course. But guys, trust me that it's something completely feasible. It's something that you get to learn every day. And when I tell you that the most gratifying thing that I have as a teacher is to see the progress that all my students make every single day by putting into practice the hacks that I told them, all the things that they should do in order to pronounce better, in order to retain and remember all the words, trust me that the most gratifying part is to see progress, really. So guys, if you have any questions, no sabéis lo gratificante que es ver cómo los alumnos ponen en práctica todo lo que le he dicho para que obviamente puedan mejorar en todos los aspectos, en todas las áreas y sobre todo para pasar este test y para poder conseguir tu plaza como controlador aéreo, que como ya habéis visto, todas las fases tienen inglés y obviamente para poder pasar de fase hay que probar el inglés. Así que si tenéis alguna pregunta, me decís. Muchísimas gracias por verme. Thank you so much for watching this video and hopefully I will get to see you next time. Bye bye. Me muero de sed.
No, ¿no tienes calor? Es que estaba pensando y dije, se va a morir con la lámpara.